Jack Carter was tired, but he didn't stop working. He had to take care of his little daughter, Lily. She was only 10 years old and the only good thing left in his life. His wife died years ago, and since then, Jack worked any job he could find. Today, he was doing a night shift as a maintenance worker in one of the city's biggest buildings, a tall, shiny tower owned by a powerful tech company called Verickson Corp. The building was quiet, as most people had gone home. Jack was fixing a broken pipe in the basement when he heard something strange through the emergency speaker. A voice, soft, scared, was crying for help. Then, a loud alarm started ringing. He grabbed his radio, but no one answered. Smoke started coming through the vent. Jack ran upstairs. His body ached, his hands were rough and tired, but his heart raced with fear. He reached the 47th floor, where the smoke was thick. Lights were flashing red. A fire had broken out, and it was growing fast. Then he heard it again, a scream. High-pitched, a child's voice. He followed the sound and reached an elevator. Its doors were partly open, and smoke was pouring out. Flames danced across the floor. Inside, he saw her, a girl, maybe 11 or 12 years old, stuck in the elevator, coughing and crying. The buttons were dead. The doors wouldn't open fully. She was trapped. Jack didn't stop to think. He pulled off his jacket, wrapped it around his arms, and pushed into the fire. The heat was unbearable. The metal doors burned his hands, but he forced them open. The girl reached out to him, tears on her face, her voice barely a whisper. Jack pulled her out and held her close, shielding her from the flames. The ceiling above them creaked. A pipe exploded nearby. Jack ran through the hallway, dodging fire and falling debris. His hands were in pain, skin melting, but he didn't let go of the girl. He found the emergency stairs and carried her down floor by floor, his legs trembling with each step. When he finally reached the ground floor, firefighters had just arrived. Medics rushed to them. Jack collapsed, the girl still in his arms. They pulled her away to check on her. Someone shouted, "That's the CEO's daughter." People started moving faster. Cameras turned on. But no one came to Jack. He was lying on the ground, hands burned, eyes half closed, heart racing. His vision blurred. The last thing he saw was the girl looking back at him, her face full of fear and something else. Maybe guilt. Jack woke up in a small hospital room. His hands were wrapped in thick bandages. The doctor said he was lucky. The burns were serious, but he would heal. Still, something felt strange. No one from the company came to thank him. No news reporters asked for interviews. No one even said the girl's name. He asked the nurse, "Is the girl okay?" She looked at him, then at the door, and whispered, "She's fine. But you should be careful." Jack went home 2 days later. Lily ran to him and hugged him tight. He smiled, trying to hide the pain. He told her a soft version of the story. "Just help someone get out of a stuck elevator," he said. But Lily was smart. She looked at his hands, then at his eyes, and said nothing. That night, Jack sat alone in the living room. He stared at his hands. They would never be the same. The skin was burned, raw, and pink. He wondered why no one came to say thank you. Not the girl. Not her family. Not even the company he saved from disaster. Then he noticed something. A black car was parked across the street. The engine was off, but the headlights flashed once, then went dark. Jack stood up and moved closer to the window. The car drove away slowly. No license plate. Later that night, someone slid an envelope under his front door. Jack picked it up. There was no name, no stamp. Just a single word written in red letters across the front. "Stop." He opened it with shaking fingers. Inside was a photo. A photo of him carrying the girl out of the fire. But something was off. In the background, deep inside the elevator, He could see strange lights, machines, and something that didn't look human. There was a second paper in the envelope, with only a few words. You saw too much. Stay silent, or your daughter disappears next. Jack's blood ran cold. His heart beat faster. His first thought was Lily. He rushed to her room. She was safe, sleeping peacefully. But now, Jack knew this wasn't just a fire. And the girl he saved wasn't just a girl. Something bigger was going on. He looked at his bandaged hands, then at the window, where the shadows moved again, and he whispered to himself, "I'm not staying silent." Jack didn't sleep much after the fire. Every time he closed his eyes, he saw the flames. He felt the heat again, the pain in his hands, and most of all, he saw the girl's face, frightened, trapped, and then, strange, like she knew something she shouldn't. He sat on his couch, hands still wrapped in thick bandages. The pain was worse at night, but he didn't care. Something about the fire didn't feel right. Why would a fire start in a high-tech building like Verexon Tower? And why did they say nothing afterward? No thank you, no press release, not even a news report. He saved the CEO's daughter, he knew that now. He had seen her photo before, on a news site months ago. Her name was Ava Thorne, daughter of Elias Thorne. The richest man in the city. If anyone should have called, it was him. But Jack's phone never rang. 3 days passed, and the black car returned. It parked across the street again, engine silent, windows black. Jack watched from behind the curtain. This time, it didn't leave quickly. It stayed there for hours, like it was waiting. He stayed up until morning, just watching, but by sunrise, the car was gone again. Later that day, Lily came running into the living room, holding something in her hand. "Daddy, look what I found," she said. It was a small black chip, no bigger than a coin. "I found it under the door," she said. It had no label, just a silver edge and strange little lights on the side. Jack looked at it carefully. His hands still hurt. But he plugged the chip into an old tablet he kept in the drawer. The screen blinked, then turned black. For a moment, nothing happened. Then green code ran across the screen and a blueprint appeared. It was a map. A digital blueprint of the entire Verexon building. Every floor, every hallway, every system. Jack tapped through the map, his eyes wide. Then he saw something that made his stomach turn. A level below the basement one that wasn't on any official record. It was marked Omega Sector, Project EVE. The letters glowed in red. He tapped on it again, but the screen suddenly went dark. A warning popped up. Access denied. Encryption locked. Clearance level 9 required. Jack sat back, confused and worried. Project EVE. What was that? And why was it hidden so deep? He stood up and went to the window again. The black car was back, this time closer, just one house down. He stepped away quickly, heart pounding. Jack knew only one person who might help him, Ben Marcus, an old friend from his days as a firefighter. Ben wasn't just a fireman, he used to work in military security before joining the force. If anyone could unlock this chip, it was him. Jack called Ben and asked to meet. They met in a small diner, far from the city center. Ben looked older now. With more gray in his beard, he listened carefully as Jack told him everything to fire. The girl, the chip, the threats. Ben didn't laugh. He leaned forward and said, "I've heard of Project EVE only whispers. Military tech, black budget stuff. They say it's about building the next evolution of intelligence." Jack frowned. "You mean?" "AI." Ben nodded. "Not just AI. Hybrid minds. Human AI fusions. Neural level experiments. Dangerous and illegal stuff." Jack felt cold all over. The girl in the elevator. Her eyes, her silence, it made sense now. Maybe she wasn't just a girl. Maybe she was something else. Ben took the chip and said he'd try to unlock it safely. But before they could leave, Jack's phone buzzed. A photo appeared on the screen. His daughter, Lily, walking home from school. No message, no sender, just the photo. Jack's breath caught in his throat. Ben saw it and grabbed his coat. "They're watching you," he said. "You're in deeper than I thought." Jack rushed home. Heart racing, Lily was there, safe, watching cartoons. He hugged her tightly, trying to hide the fear in his eyes that night. Jack locked every door and sat in the dark with a baseball bat. Outside, a drone flew past his window and disappeared, and on his tablet. The chip came back to life for 1 second. A message blinked on the screen. Project EVE has escaped. Then everything turned black again. Jack stared into the shadows. He didn't know what EVE really was. But one thing was clear now. The fire wasn't the end. It was just the beginning. Jack didn't feel like himself anymore. Every corner of his house felt unsafe now. The walls seemed thinner, the windows weaker, the locks useless. He was used to danger when he worked as a firefighter. But this was different. This wasn't fire. This was something he couldn't see. It was in the dark cars, the silent drones, the strange chip, and the name, Project EVE. He sat in his kitchen with the blinds closed. The chip was gone. Ben had taken it, but Ben hadn't called back in over a day. Jack's hands still hurt, wrapped in bandages, but his mind was burning hotter than his skin. He kept replaying the fire in his head, the girl's eyes. Not normal, too sharp, too aware. And the machines behind her in the elevator shapes that didn't belong in a normal building. Lily sat at the table, quietly drawing. She had stopped asking questions about the fire. She was too smart for her age. Jack hated that she was already learning to be afraid. Suddenly, his phone buzzed. A new message. "Meet me at the docks. Alone." It was Ben. Finally, no other words, just an address at the far end of the city. Jack told Lily he had to step out for a quick errand. He left her with a neighbor and drove out in the rain. The city lights flickered on wet streets. Neon signs reflected on the windshield like ghostly eyes. Every few blocks, he checked his rearview mirror. But the black car never appeared this time. The docks were empty, except for a single flickering lamp. Fog rolled in from the water, hiding everything in white mist. Ben was there, standing by a shipping container, his face pale under the streetlight. He was holding the chip in his gloved hand. His eyes darted around like a hunted man's. "Ben," Jack said, stepping closer. Ben raised a finger to his lips and whispered, "Don't talk." "They're listening?" He handed Jack a small flash drive. "I copied what I could before it locked itself. You need to see this." They moved inside the container where it was dark and muffled. Ben connected the drive to a small portable screen and pressed play. At first, there was static. Then grainy footage appeared. A white laboratory, shining and sterile. Rows of pods filled with a strange blue liquid. Inside the pods floated children. No, not children, something between human and machine. Their eyes opened and glowed faintly. Wires ran into their skulls, down their spines. Ben whispered. Project EVE. Jack stared, unable to speak, on the screen. Scientists in white suits moved around, scanning data. Then the image shifted, showing a black file with red letters. EVE Protocol, Stage 3. Synthetic Mind-Host Integration. Ben paused the video. They're fusing human children with AI neural cores. Military contracts. Illegal everywhere. This is why the fire started. Someone tried to destroy the evidence. Maybe the girl escaped. Maybe she wasn't supposed to be alive. Jack felt sick. He remembered Ava's face, the fear, the silence. The way she clung to him but didn't speak a single word. She wasn't a hostage, he muttered. She was the weapon. Ben nodded grimly. I think she knows something. Jack and I think they know you saved her. You're not just a witness, you're a variable in their experiment now. Suddenly, a noise outside the container, metal clanging. Footsteps. Ben snapped his head toward the door. They found us, he hissed. He shoved the flash drive back into Jack's hand. Get out. Protect Lily. I'll buy you time. Before Jack could argue, the door slammed open. Two men in black suits stepped in. Their eyes hidden behind glass visors. They moved like soldiers, but without emotion. One raised a weapon, silent, sleek, not a gun Jack recognized. Ben pushed Jack toward the back exit. Go, he shouted. Jack hesitated for half a second, then ran. He heard a hiss, a crackle of energy, and Ben's voice shouting before it cut off. Jack burst out the back of the container into the fog, heart hammering. He didn't look back. Didn't stop running until he reached his car. He threw himself inside, started the engine, and sped away. In the rearview mirror, he saw the container explode silently, no fire. Just a burst of light and dust. Ben was gone. Jack gripped the steering wheel tight, his bandaged hands bleeding through the fabric. Tears blurred his vision, but he kept driving. Now he was alone, with only the flash drive and his daughter. No one left to trust. He reached his neighborhood, but didn't park near his house. He parked 2 streets away and walked in the shadows. When he finally stepped into his home, his heart nearly stopped. The front door was open. The lights were on, and Lily's backpack lay on the floor. Empty. Lily, he called, his voice breaking. No answer. He ran to her room. The bed was empty. The window was open, rain blowing in. On the pillow sat a single piece of paper. Wet from the rain, it said in black letters, Phase 2 initiated. Return EVE or lose everything. Jack's knees went weak. He clutched the note, trembling. He thought of the girl from the elevator, the one they called Ava. He thought of the pods, the experiments, the soldiers. He looked at his burned hands and whispered to himself, if they took my daughter, I will burn their whole world down outside. The drone came back, its red light blinking through the rain. But this time, Jack didn't hide. He stared straight into the drone's camera. Eyes cold. They've started a war, he muttered. And I'm going to finish it. Jack didn't waste a second. He stuffed the flash drive into his jacket and left the house without turning off the lights. He didn't know who was watching, but they had Lily now. And that meant there was no more time to be careful. The city was alive with neon lights and endless noise. But in Jack's world, everything had gone quiet. Only one thought kept repeating in his mind. Find her before it's too late. He knew the police wouldn't help. Varexin had deep roots, money, power, and control. If the cops weren't bought already, they were too scared to fight them. Jack drove to the one part of the city where even Varexin didn't go without caution, the grid. It was a maze of alleys, tunnels, and dark tech markets. Hackers lived there. Criminals, ghosts of old wars. If answers existed, they'd be in the grid. He parked far from the main street and moved on foot. His burned hands ached in the cold night. But he pushed forward. At the edge of the alley, a glowing red sign blinked. Data dust, we know what others hide inside. It smelled like metal and burnt wires. Machines buzzed. Cables hung from the ceiling like vines. A woman sat behind a broken desk, her arms made of chrome, her eyes glowing blue. She looked up, recognized Jack instantly. You're the guy from the elevator fire, she said in a robotic voice. Jack's heart jumped. You saw it? He asked. She nodded slowly. Someone leaked security footage. Just for a second. You went into the flames and came out with the CEO's daughter. Brave, but stupid. I need help. Jack said quickly. They took my daughter. I need to find her. I have data on Project EVE. At the sound of those words, the room changed, the lights dimmed, and a steel door opened behind the woman. Go inside. Someone's waiting, she said. Jack stepped through the door into a dark chamber lit by floating screens. A man sat in the corner, typing with one hand while adjusting wires on his skull with the other. His name was Krell, the most dangerous hacker in the grid. Once he worked for Verickson. Now, he made a living destroying them. Jack handed him the flash drive. I need to know where they're keeping Project EVE and where my daughter is. Krell didn't speak for 5 minutes. Only typed, his fingers dancing like spiders. Images appeared, more lab footage, maps, encrypted files. And then a folder named Host Trials Alpha Group. Inside were 5 profiles. Each one had a photo of a child. One of them was Ava Thorne II. Lily Carter. Jack froze. What is this? My daughter. What is this file? Krell frowned. They tested Lily for something months ago. Blood work? Brain scans. She was flagged as a possible host match. Jack's mouth went dry. I never gave them permission. She never had tests like that. Krell turned to him, his voice serious. You ever take her to one of Verickson's free clinics? Maybe for a fever, a school test. Jack thought hard yes once, about 6 months ago. Just a small fever, nothing major. They gave her a pill and ran a routine check. He hadn't thought about it since. Krell shook his head. They used her data. She's the perfect neural match for the next phase of Project EVE. That's why they took her. Jack clenched his fists, burned skin tightening in pain. He forced the next words out. Where is she now? Krell pulled up a blinking red dot on a digital map. Underground facility. Sector 9, deep below the old transit lines. Heavily guarded. Not on any public system. Can you get me in? Jack asked. Krell raised an eyebrow. Not alone. But there's someone who might help. He handed Jack a card. It had only a name. Silas. No last name. He used to lead special ops for Verickson. Went rogue. If anyone can break into that place, it's him. Jack took the card and left. He had one goal now: get to Sector 9 and bring Lily back. But before he could leave the grid, someone called out from the alley behind him. He turned fast, ready to fight. It was the last person he expected to see. Ava Thorne, the CEO's daughter, the girl he saved from the elevator. She was wearing a dark cloak, her face pale. Eyes glowing faintly in the shadows. I remember you, she said softly. You pulled me out of the fire. Jack stepped back, confused. Ava? How? Why are you here? She looked up at him with eyes that were no longer just human. They lied to you, she said. The fire wasn't to kill me. It was my escape. I didn't want to be EVE anymore. Jack stared at her, stunned. Do you know where Lily is? She nodded slowly. They took her because I failed. I wasn't the perfect host. But she is. And they will break her if you don't stop them. Jack felt something cold run down his spine. Will you help me? He asked. Ava looked up, and for a moment, something human flickered in her glowing eyes. Yes, she said. But if we go there, none of us may come back. Jack didn't care. He had one mission now, and he would burn the whole system down to get his daughter back. Jack stood on the rooftop with Ava beside him. The city's lights shining below like stars trapped in glass. Cold wind cut through his jacket, but he didn't flinch. His mind was full of images: Lily, scared and alone in a lab. Wires in her head like the children from the video. He couldn't let that happen. He wouldn't. Ava stared out at the skyline, her voice soft. I know the entrance. I know the codes. But we won't make it out if we go alone. Jack nodded. I have a name, he said, pulling out the card Krell gave him. Silas. Ava's eyes narrowed. I know Silas. He was my guard once. When I lived inside the Omega sector, he's dangerous, but if he still has a soul, he'll help. They headed to the edge of the city where the old metro lines had been shut down years ago. The tunnels below were quiet, forgotten, filled with dust and echoes of a world left behind. Jack followed Ava through broken fences and rusted gates until they reached a door buried behind thick vines and concrete. She typed a code into a hidden panel and the metal door slid open with a low hiss. Inside, they found Silas. He was older now, face scarred. His right arm mechanical from the elbow down. He was sharpening a knife when they walked in. But he didn't look surprised. He glanced at Ava, then at Jack. "I thought you were dead," he said to Ava. "They tried," she answered, her voice steady. "But I burned my way out." Silas stood, tall and wide. "And who's the man with fire in his eyes?" Jack stepped forward. "I'm a father," he said. "They took my daughter. I want her back." Silas didn't ask questions. He just turned, picked up a tablet, and pulled up a map of Sector 9, 3 entrances. 2 are sealed with defense drones. One old fire tunnel isn't on the main grid. "That's our way in," Ava added, "but it leads straight into the testing chamber. If they are already preparing Lily, we won't have much time." Silas nodded. "Then we hit them fast." No hesitation, they prepared in silence. Silas gave Jack a compact weapon, easy to hold even with burned hands. Ava uploaded codes into a small cube that could disable the lab's AI for 60 seconds, just enough to grab Lily and run. Jack didn't say much. He kept thinking of Lily's smile, her laugh, her drawing with crayons just 2 days ago. She was his entire world, and they had stolen her. They entered the tunnel at midnight. It was pitch black, but Ava's vision guided them. Silas moved like a shadow, quiet and deadly. Jack stayed close, heart pounding like a drum. After an hour, they reached a wall covered in steel plates. Ava stepped forward and pressed her palm to it. A hidden scanner glowed, reader print, and the wall opened. They entered the Omega sector. It smelled like metal and medicine. Cold lights hummed from the ceiling, and everything felt too clean, too dead. They walked through the main hallway, past sealed glass doors and screens showing live brain scans. Then they heard its soft crying. A child's voice. Jack broke into a run. He didn't wait, didn't plan. He found the chamber and saw Hurley Lee. Strapped to a chair, wires connected to her temples. A screen blinking above her head. "Lily." He shouted, her eyes opened, weak and teary. "Daddy?" Then alarms screamed. Red lights flashed, metal doors slammed shut. Security bots dropped from the ceiling, tall machines with long limbs and glowing red eyes. Silas pulled Jack back. "Ava, now." He shouted Ava through the cube into the air, exploded with a blue wave of energy. All the bots froze, systems crashing for 60 seconds. Silas and Jack rushed in, ripping the wires from Lily's head. She was weak, but awake. "Daddy." "I want to go home," she whispered. "We're going home," he said, holding her close. Then the lights flickered. The bots rebooted faster than expected. One of them grabbed Ava by the arm, its claw digging into her skin. "Go." She screamed, "Get her out." Silas pulled Jack toward the tunnel. Firing his weapon at the machines, Ava stayed behind. Fighting with superhuman strength, half human, half machine, she moved like lightning. But Jack didn't want to leave her. "She saved you," Silas shouted. "Now save your daughter." Jack ran through the tunnel. Holding Lily in his arms, Silas stayed behind. Sealing the door as they escaped, they didn't stop until they were outside, breathing hard under the open sky. Lily clung to Jack, shaking. "Was that a dream?" she asked. He kissed her forehead. "No, sweetheart, but it's over now." But deep in his heart, Jack knew it wasn't over. They had escaped the lab, but Varexin would never stop. And Ava? She stayed behind to buy them time, Jack looked back at the tunnel. One final explosion shook the Earthava's final stand. He whispered, "I'll come back for you," and for the first time in days. He cried not from fear, not from pain, but because someone else chose to fight with him. And because Lily was safe, for now, the next morning. The city was buzzing, but not with normal news. Screens all across the skyline showed Jack's face. Photos of him holding Lily, footage of him inside the Verickson building. The headline read, "Terrorist breaks into secure research lab, abducts test subject." Jack watched from a hidden rooftop. His hands shook with anger. Lily was sleeping next to him, wrapped in an old coat, safe for now. But the world thought he was the villain. They twisted everything. Verickson had moved fast, seizing their media, their money, their reach. Now the city was hunting him. Police drones flew over every street, and checkpoints were placed at major exits. He had no time to hide. He needed to clear his name, protect Lily, and expose what Verickson was doing. But his only proof, Ava and the flash drive, were both gone. Silas was missing too. Maybe dead, maybe captured. And Ava? No word since the explosion. Jack stood and looked at the bright signs flashing across the city's skyline. He whispered, "If they want a villain, I'll show them the truth." He picked up a small device Krell had given him before, an emergency signal transmitter. It would send a message to a deep channel where hidden hackers and rogue AI listened. He pressed the button. 30 minutes later, a message appeared on his cracked screen. "Meet at Gray Station. Midnight. Come alone." Jack didn't tell Lily the whole truth. He just said, "We're meeting someone who can help." She nodded, holding his hand tightly. She hadn't said much since the rescue. Her eyes still carried fear. They reached Gray Station before midnight, hiding in the shadows. An old train yard with broken cars and rusted tracks. Nothing worked there anymore, except secrets. A figure stepped out of the darkness. Not Krell. This was a woman in a long brown coat with metal implants across her jaw. Her voice was calm and deep. "You're the man who stole the weapon." Jack stepped in front of Lily. "She's not a weapon. She's my daughter." The woman smiled faintly. "I know. That's why I'm helping you." Her name was Mira, a former Verickson scientist who left when she learned what Project EVE really was. She had proof files, documents, names, locations. Everything Jack needed to bring Verickson down. But there was a price. "You have to go public," Mira said. "Not just leak the files. You must speak. Show your face. Tell your story. Make them listen." Jack hesitated. "If I do that, they'll come for me." "They'll come for her. They already are," Mira replied. "But if you hide, they'll control the story. If you speak, maybe you wake the people up." Jack looked at Lily, who nodded silently. "I'm not scared," she whispered. He felt tears in his eyes again. By morning, the plan was set. Mira used her old access to upload the full truth to every major screen in the city. Jack stood in front of a camera, his face raw, his voice shaking but strong. He told the world everything. The fire, the girl, the chip, the lab. The children inside Project EVE. He showed Lily scans, the proof she was being used. The lies Verickson created. He ended with one line that shook the city. "If I'm a terrorist for saving my daughter, then what does that make the men who tried to turn her into a machine?" Then the screen went black, and the city held its breath. Some people didn't believe him. Some called him a liar, a crazy man. But others, thousands, started asking questions. Old employees spoke up. Whistleblowers came forward. Protests started outside Verickson's towers. And a hacker group released more data, confirming Jack's story. By nightfall, Verickson's CEO, Elias Thorne, made a statement. He stood in front of the press with perfect hair and cold eyes. "This man has stolen dangerous experimental material. He is unstable. We are working with authorities to bring him in and recover our property." He never called Lily by her name, only property. Jack punched the wall when he saw that. He turned to Myra. "I'm not running anymore. I'm going after him." Myra looked unsure. "He's protected by private security, hundreds of guards." "You won't get close. I got into a megasector," Jack said. "I'll get to him then." Out of nowhere, a soft knock on the door. Jack raised his weapon. But the door opened slowly, and Ava stepped in. Alive, her face cut, her eyes dimmer, her movements slower, but alive. "I told you I'd come back," she said, then collapsed into Jack's arms. Lily rushed over, tears falling down her cheeks. "Ava." Jack looked at her wounds. "They tried to reprogram me," Ava whispered, "but I broke the system." Jack looked at Mira. "Get her stable. She's the key to everything." The final battle was coming. Jack knew it wouldn't just be about Lily anymore. It would be about every child they had used, every truth they had buried, and he was ready. Not to hide, not to run, but to fight. The city didn't sleep that night for the first time in years. People were not watching shows or playing games on their wall screens. They were watching Jack Carter. His video had gone viral in less than 5 hours. Every rooftop, office, alley, and corner store had seen the same truth, that Verickson had been turning children into machines. That Project EVE was not a medical dream, but a nightmare born of control, greed, and silence. And now the man who told the truth was being hunted. Jack stood in a dark warehouse, holding Lily close. Ava lay on a table nearby, still healing. Still fighting the code inside her mind, Mira worked quickly to stop the infection from taking full control again. Every few minutes, Ava's eyes glowed too bright, and her hands shook. But she gritted her teeth and whispered, "Keep going. I won't be their weapon." Jack placed his burned hand over hers. "You already chose who you are," he said. "You're free now." Silas arrived just before dawn. "Bruised, limping, but alive, I followed a convoy," he said. They moved the last active server core to the Verickson Sky Spire. "Top floor." "That's where Elias is hiding now." Jack nodded. "Then we end it there." "No way in," Mira warned. "They have drone walls, sentry turrets, facial scans. You step near the building, you're dead. Then we don't go through the front," Jack said. He turned to Ava. "Can you walk?" She nodded slowly. "I can do more than that." At exactly 3 p.m. every screen in the city glitched. A new message appeared. "Final broadcast truth has no walls." Then a live feed began. Jack, Silas, Ava, and Myra walking straight toward the Verickson Tower. They didn't hide. They didn't wear masks. They walked openly, and people followed. First 20, then hundreds, then 1,000 citizens, workers, even ex-Verickson employees, people who had lost children, people who had believed the lies for too long. Now they walked as one, toward the tower that claimed to be untouchable. The drone wall activated, guns rose from the ground. Ready to fire, Ava stepped forward, her eyes glowing bright white. She lifted her hand, and the machines froze. "I built this code," she whispered. "I can break it." The gates opened with a hiss. No bullets, no alarm, just silence. Jack led the way through the front doors. The lobby was empty. Only one elevator worked, the private one to the top. They entered without speaking as they rose. Jack looked at the reflection in the metal walls. His face was tired but steady. Behind him stood a girl who had once been a weapon, and a daughter who had once been marked as one. Now they were his reason. Now they were his strength. The doors opened to a glass hallway, and at the end stood Elias Thorne, CEO of Verickson, dressed in black. Hands behind his back, calm as ever. "I expected you to run," he said, smiling coldly. I expected you to fear what I created. I don't fear machines, Jack said. I fear men who stop being human. Elias shrugged. You don't understand what I've done. I built the future. I built perfection. Weakness like yours is a disease. Jack walked closer. You called my daughter a test subject. You called her property. That's not perfection. That's evil. Elias raised a remote. I can end her with one click before he could press it. Ava stepped in front of Jack. Try it, she said, her voice cold. I already rewired your entire mainframe on the way up. That click won't save you. Elias's hand trembled. His screen turned black. Every control system he relied on failed. Cameras, defense systems, even his heart rate boosters. Ava walked toward him, her eyes glowing brighter than ever. You used me, she said. You broke me. But I remember who I was before your machines. And now? I choose. She touched his chest, and a soft pulse of light passed through him. He gasped and fell to his knees. Not dead, but disconnected. The servers behind him exploded, Mira's virus spreading through them like wildfire. Screens all over the world began showing the real files proof of everything. The world saw the experiments, the dead children, the cold signatures of executives, and the world changed weeks later. Jack sat with Lily in a small garden on the city's edge. Verexon was gone. The tower was torn down by its own workers. People were building something new clean. Honest, slow, but real. Ava lived in a quiet place now. Far from cameras, she still glitched sometimes. Still fought memories she didn't ask for, but she smiled more now. She painted pictures and sent them to Lily every week. Mira started a new clinic for children, for healing, not for testing. Silas trained young protectors kids who wanted to fight not with guns, but with truth and Jack. He wasn't just a tired father anymore. He was a symbol, not because he had power, but because he had heart. People asked how he did it. How a single man stood up against the strongest company in the world. He only ever gave one answer. I'm just a father. But they made a mistake when they thought that meant I was weak, and the world never forgot it.